Hello and welcome back to another Division 2 video. Today is a sad day with the recent introduction of the raids. I, like many, have been forced into biting the bullet and making an LMG build. And for me, the raid was the final nail in the coffin. Seeing how effective the LMG build is for other players in PvP, and now the raid meant I just had to make one. Now the reason it's a sad day is because personally I've never been into making LMG builds. I never in the Division 1 and never planned to in the Division 2, it's just not my cup of tea. I simply just don't like them. I don't know what it is, but I've always been compelled into making like an SMG build or an assault rifle build, and I flirted with a marksman build, but mainly SMG and assault rifle, and I think many people are like that as well, and that's fine. And if it's the other way around, if you've always been compelled to make an LMG build for instance and never wanted to make any other weapon class, that's fine too. But I just think you shouldn't have to make a certain weapon class or build meta to compete in certain aspects of the game. And at the moment, everything about the LMG meta just trumps all other metas at what's on offer at the moment. I mean, if you take a look at the LMG build, you've got the sustained damage, 100 plus magazine size as a minimum. I've seen people with near 200 bullets per clip. And then the hip fire accuracy, I feel, because you're spraying for such a long period of time, it's more viable than say with an assault rifle. And then the reload speed isn't bad either. And if we take a look at the Division 1, the way Predator and Striker were back in the day, where everybody just seemed to use those build metas, but at the same time their gear sets, not just weapons. And we shouldn't be forced into using any type of build or meta to compete. I feel every build should have their place and worth, and especially in the raid. I don't think everybody, all 8 people should be using LMG builds. I think there should be a reason why people use SMG and assault rifle builds, and even the marksman builds as well. They just don't seem viable. And we do know from a recent state of game, I think Terry Spire talked about why they can't always buff certain things in the game because of the whole balancing system. And it does make a whole lot of sense. But at this moment in time, if they did nerf the LMG meta, the raid would become that whole bunch harder. And I do say at the moment, because I'm sure the devs do have plans in the form of introducing more powerful gears and weapons and gear sets. Well, to be honest, I'd like to think they will be, but we'll save that for another video that we've got planned. And they did say on the most recent state of the game that they have no plans to change the difficulty of the raid, which I don't totally agree with, especially on console for obvious reasons. But with that being said, we shouldn't have to use an LMG build to do it either. It's clear that something needs to give, and I want to take a look at a few of the scenarios here and discuss options going forward. So the LMG build, whether you were to nerf, like say, the reload speed or the magazine size, so that the other builds could compete with it and make them more viable, that's in PvP or on the raid. Everything works out, that'd be fine. But then they would 100% have to make changes to the raid, and they've made it clear they just do not want to do that. So the only option around it is making things like the assault rifle builds and the SMG builds, and to be fair, any other builds, that more viable. So surely they've got to give them a little buff, maybe. For me, the assault rifles, for instance, in the Division 1 had enemy armor damage, and in this one they seem to have health damage. Because let's face it, when people lose their armor in the Division 2, there is no difference with whatever gun you've got on how quickly somebody's health bar depletes. So to me, it's just a pointless weapon perk, whereas SMG sits for, critical hit chance. I just feel like the assault rifle ones is pretty weak in comparison, and as I say, in Division 1, assault rifles was enemy armor damage, and surely the Division 2's version of that should be armor damage, or am I missing something? As I say, this is just something I've never understood. As soon as the game came out, I was just looking at why is it a health damage bar and not, straight up armor damage. And they have introduced armor damage with the True Patriot 2 piece that everybody seems to run in some capacity. And you can notice a small difference, and it's not overpowered at all, so for me it should be standard with assault rifles. So if that was the case, damage dealt to the purple and the gold NPCs would be much greater, as I think the ads are just far too powerful, especially for us console players who can't tank the head accurately like they can on PC. And in that way, we could continue using that build, and that gives us another build option rather than just sticking down the route of LMG. So for me, if they made that little change with the assault rifles, maybe buff the damage a little bit, but more importantly, definitely change it to not enemy armor damage, to just straight up armor damage. I think that'd be a great move. And then, I was looking at the SMGs, and I know they come with critical hit chance, but at the same time, the mags are small, yet they've got quick reload speed, but, the damage isn't that great, especially on NPCs and obviously anything to do with, PvE. So for me, I was taking a little look at some of the, an extra damage buff they could add to maybe like weak points, for instance. So if you think about it, SMGs are the most accurate weapon class. And then if you take a look at Boomer's hitbox on his chest, it's relatively small. And as I say, for console players, especially when Boomer's swinging his arms around, you know, as he does with his gun, it can be quite hard to hit sometimes. So if you gave SMGs weak point bonuses, so maybe they only had to hit it like, you know, between 3 and 5 bullets or something like that, I think it'd give the SMG build more viable option within the raid. So you'd have, for instance, a couple people running Boomer and using the SMG build to stop him from healing, and it just kind of gives that bit of diversity to the raid, because they could also go about, you know, shooting the weak points on the ads, and then, you know, you could compare that, you know, synergize that with an assault rifle player. He could then use his, once the weak point's gone, he could then use, you know, enemy armor damage to literally, you know, rip them to pieces just to make it a little bit easier. So you kind of like killing two birds with one stone. You're not nerfing the raid, so to speak, but you're making other things more viable, because we need more diversity within the raid instead of everybody just running around, you know, with an LMG build. So look, there's 2 buffs that you could give, and it wouldn't necessarily nerf the raid or the LMG meta, and it just bring other metas into the frame, giving us more versatility, because at the moment there's just no strategy involved, so it's like everything's samey. And don't get me wrong, for me the raid is amazing. I think it's the best thing they've ever done with the division. It's brought competitiveness to people, you know, trying to complete it the quickest and things like that, you know, and it's just, I think it's just the best thing they've brought to the franchise. But let's not make it a monotonous thing where everybody uses the same builds, you know? Something needs to give, and don't get me wrong, I know the raid's supposed to be hard. This isn't me complaining about the raid as such, but more the fundamentals surrounding it. And for me, there should be more versatility, and as I say, you know, not monotonous gameplay. So that's all I've got to say on it at the moment. You know, everybody seems to be saying, oh, the raid's too hard. I don't really, you know, we haven't got 8 mans to it. And don't get me wrong, I've said it myself when it first came out, but you know, when you just sit back, it's kind of like, well, you know, if the raid isn't going to get nerfed, maybe make other things viable, because at the moment everyone's just running around double LMGs, you know, and it takes something that's supposed to be tactical, and you've got to rely on all your teammates, to something where they're just all running around with as much DPS as they can with double LMGs, and I don't think that is what they intended. So if they were to make little changes within the builds, it could make the raid that little bit more easy for everybody, especially, you know, console players. But yeah, if there's anything you guys have thought about that could make the raid or even the builds that little bit better without making drastic changes, drop them in the comments down below. We'll have a little chat about that. But if you did like today's video, guys, you know, don't forget to hit that like button to let me know you're enjoying it. Subscribe if you're new, and until next time, Agents out.